Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. As people are coming into the webinar room, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of legal housekeeping. I do want to welcome you. My name is Marche. I am the webinar director here at Advice Chaser. Advice Chaser, the host of this webinar, is not a registered investment advisor. We cannot and do not give financial advice. Today's presentation is for educational purposes only and cannot be considered advice for any person's individual situation. Advice Chaser regularly hosts informative webinars such as this one, featuring a variety of knowledgeable professionals, many of whom are licensed advisors. Any opinions, ideas, jokes, or principles expressed by presenters are their own, and however true, funny, or interesting, are not endorsed by Advice Chaser. Please do not act on the information you hear today without consulting a qualified financial professional. Well, we're thrilled to bring you this educational presentation. Attendees are muted, but we do encourage you to ask questions using the chat box, and the presenter will answer these queries during or after the webinar today as appropriate. If you ask a question in the chat box, go ahead and leave your phone number and email address as well. And if we can't get to your question during today's event, we'll make sure someone reaches out to you after today's event. We want this experience to be as educational as possible, so please don't hesitate to ask for clarification or expansion of the material. I'd love to introduce you to today's presenter. J.R. Gururi is a certified financial planning practitioner that uses a unique approach and methodology called financial life planning. Life planning connects the dots between our financial realities and the lives we long to live. This method is based on the premise that advisors should first discover a client's most essential goals in life before formulating a financial plan, so a client's finances fully support those goals. As a lifelong learner, musician, and athlete, JR holds a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, trains Muay Thai, and has been playing the guitar for over 30 years. He actively performs and writes music in his band. All right, well, I'm so excited to have you here again, JR, and we're going to go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. So today's conversation is an education presentation is on the topic of how much can I withdraw in retirement. Often we don't really consider, we spend a lot of our days working, saving, stashing money away, and then we get into this moment in the future, call it retirement, call it, the moment of financial independence, and the dollars we've saved up until this point has to last for the rest of our life. And now, how much do you spend such that it lasts the rest of your life and performs in such a way that maybe you want to pass on some wealth to your friends and family or children, grandchildren? Do you want to pass away at 99 years old with 1 penny in the bank? There's a lot of ways of looking at that, and oftentimes we don't spend too much time on strategies doing it, right? And so I think one of the things that I get excited about is teaching people methodologies for spending the most amount of money in retirement. It's really easy to walk into a financial planner's office and go, how do I spend the least amount of money possible? It doesn't require, expertise to figure that out, but it does require expertise to figure out how to spend all your money successfully in retirement. I mean, you've earned it, so you might as well spend it. Okay, so that's my attitude, and that's my opinion, is I think people deserve to spend every dollar that they've earned up until that point successfully. And now this is not Wild West chaos thinking and being over the top risk taker in terms of spending. It's just thinking about spending money in a different way such that it's being strategic. That's really what it's about. Okay, so the first thing that would be the best strategy is to leave the millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've earned in my retirement accounts and investment accounts and stick it in the bank. That would be the perfect situation, because if I stick it in a bank, then I don't have to worry about losing money to negative performance, right? There's no risk inside of a bank, okay? And I would just spend the money down over time. And by the time I'm 100 years old, I pass away and I spent all my money. And you can do that math calculation fairly simple, right? If I have a certain amount of money divided by the amount of years I'm in retirement, and that's how much money I can spend every year. Is there anything wrong with that analysis? The answer is yes. The reason why that analysis won't work is because your assumption is that the amount of money that you're spending today will be the same that you spend 20, 30 years from now in that retirement. And that is not the case due to this thing called inflation. And yes, this is a very hot topic right now that's been going on for the last few years. But inflation has been a problem since the beginning of our financial system. So it's always been a problem. It's just there's heightened attention to it. And so what happens is that same amount of money that you spend is not enough today to buy the same things a few years from now. So you automatically have to spend more money. So then you will run out if you don't adjust for inflation. Okay, so since you can't just stick your money in a bank account, most people are required to throw their money into the investment world. All right, that can bring us to the next slide. And that gets us into the world of stocks and bonds, retirement accounts. Gold and silver is fine, it kind of work in the same way, which is precious metals, sort of. They go up and down, but generally speaking, I'm referring to retirement accounts that where you invest in stocks and bonds and that sort of thing. Okay. So if you were to walk into most financial planners' offices around the country and ask them how much money they should spend in retirement, you will get the 4% rule. The 4% rule is a methodology for pulling money out of your retirement account every year. And basically, it's like the safe withdrawal amount. Safe meaning that most likely you won't run out of money. So let me give you some background. In 1995 or 4 or 6 or something in that 1990 range, a gentleman by the name of Bill Bengen was asked the question from his clients. He did what I did for a living and goes, you know what? These people are asking how much money they should spend in retirement. I have no idea how much they should spend. So why don't I go figure it out? And so what he does is this ginormous research paper back in the 90s, and discovered that through all of history of our financial markets, if you removed 4% per year, then you would not run out of money under all the negative stock market outcomes, like with all the down markets that we faced. So let's just use very simple numbers. If I had $1 million, that would mean 4% of $1 million is $40,000. And that is the amount of money that you would be able to remove every year without running out of money. And you could take out inflation, meaning like every year it would go up by an inflation rate of like between 2 and 3%, and you would be fine. You would not run out of money. Okay, so the least amount of money possible to run out, so that you don't run out of money is 4%. So now you could go, okay, well, here's 4%. And well, if I have $1 million, I could spend $40,000 a year. If I have $2 million, I could spend $80,000 a year, right? And so what people do is they hustle and hustle and save and save and save to reach this dollar amount, this 4% amount, so then they can feel comfortable removing that money for the rest of their lives. Just so that you understand the rule, 96% of the time, you had money left over. 4% of the time, you ran out on the date of death. Like you had $1 left in the bank. Okay, so that's the rule. There's inflation. There's some nuance to the rule. I'm not giving you every little piece of nugget of information. You're more than welcome to call me up later. I have plenty of research reports and ask me about it. But generally speaking, that's how it works. So in 2012, in 2013, a new research report came out from 3 PhDs and 3 CFAs certified financial analysts, and they went, uh-oh, we got a problem with the 4% rule. It ain't that safe anymore. So I want to kind of look at this graph here. I'm going to walk everybody through it. So the 4% rule is based on 30 years. That's really important, right? So if I retire at 70, we're talking about from age 70 to age 100. If I retire at age 65, I'm going to be gone at age 95. It's the assumption of a 30-year lifespan. So whatever 30 years you want to work with. Okay, now on the bottom part of the graph where it says stock allocation, we have an analysis of how much money goes into the stock world and then how much money goes into the bond world. Most of everybody's retirement accounts and investment accounts usually fall into the stock and bond allocation world. That's just how we do it, right? So 50 represents 50% of the money's in stocks and 50% of the money is in bonds. 100 means 100% of the money is in stocks, none of it's in bonds. We call that an aggressive investment strategy. You go all the way to the left, 0 meaning 0 of the money is in stocks, all of it's in bonds. That's considered super conservative. Okay, so we have a stock allocation. Now, let's just use the middle of a page because typically our eyes move to the middle of the page for some reason, right? So 50, let's go up the color lines here. So if I have $1 million, I want to keep using $1 million because it's easy to do the math in our head. And I am going to take money out of the account. So if you look at the legend, and we're looking at the red right now, so we're at the 50, and we look at the red, and it says WR. WR stands for withdrawal rate. Withdrawal rate is defined as the amount of money I take out per year, every year, moving forward in my retirement. So if I'm retired at 70 years old, year one, I take out 6% per year, which is $60,000, right? Take $1 million, multiply it by 6%, $60,000. That's how much money I'm going to take out. Inflation adjusted, so that means that we're going to add inflation to this. We're going to take out with inflation. What happens? Well, I get a score of 94 if I do that. When we look over the vertical axis to the left, it says probability of failure. Failure, what does that mean? Failure is defined as that I run out of money before the 30 years is up. I go broke at that time during retirement, which is not what we want, right? So let me review. If I take $60,000 out every year, there's a 94% chance I'm going to run out of money. Not good. So what do we do about it? Don't take out $60,000, right? So let's go to the yellow line. WR equals 5%. That's $50,000 in my example. If I take out $50,000, I got an 82% chance of failure. Still not good. What if I take out 4%? That's the light blue. That's the 4% rule, the safe one. We're at a coin toss at this point, 50-50, right? And then finally, if we take out only 3%, right? Still a 24% chance of failure. This is like terrible news for people. Now, the reason why this is because we never knew or never thought, or the guy who did the research for it, that we were going to be in these 0, 1%, 2% returns on our bonds. We didn't know we were going to be in a low interest rate environment for as long as we have. And we don't know how long we're going to be in it moving forward. Right? But this is where we are today. Now, if you look to the right, what you're noticing is as I go further to the right of the graph, you can see the probability of failure goes down the more aggressive I go. But the more aggressive I am, the more susceptible I am to problems with like stock market down moves, emotional behavior, irrational behavior. It's not fun being in a super high risk portfolio when you're retired and seeing your account drop by significant amount. Right, so we're walking into a problem here, is essentially. All right, next slide. So I just gave you some bad news. Okay, not only is that bad news, one of the things you have to understand is that when you enter into retirement, the most dangerous time for you to have a bear market, down market, is in the beginning of your retirement, right? So we can get negative returns at any time. We can get a beginning, middle, or end of the retirement, right? And so if I get negative returns in the beginning of the retirement, it's very dangerous to our portfolio lasting a long time, right? And that makes a lot of sense, right? If I have a down move in the market and I pull money out of it because I have to eat, right? And I have to spend money on my stuff, you increase the rate at which you're going to run out of money, right? See, it's not a big deal when it happens at the end because like you've already built up this massive amount of money and you're only a few years out. And so if it happens at the end, it's not so violent, right? So you want negative, if it's going to happen, you want it at the end, not in the beginning. Time for the demo.
Awesome.
Okay, so here we go. So I am going to show you what I mean by all of this. And I'll give you like almost like a sort of like a historical example. All right. So I want everyone here to imagine. So what you're looking at here is a calculator. Right? It's all it is. It's just a mathematical tool. Present value. Present value means how much money do I have today? Today means I'm 67 years old and I'm going to live to 97. There's my 30-year time frame. Okay. Now what you're seeing here is a table down at the bottom. Okay. Now the table represents the future of my dollars. How does my dollars perform moving forward in history? Assuming that I'm completely in the stock market, 100%. Now, what I want everyone to understand is what is the asset type? I'm choosing large cap stocks because the bulk of most people's money is always in large cap stocks. It's just how we do it, right? So I'm picking that as the asset type, and then I'm picking a year specifically. Now I have to have 30 years of time. So I'm picking 1973. So if you went from 1973, 30 years, that brings you to 2003. That was the time frame, and this was the returns of large cap stocks. Right, and we think of large cap stocks almost like the Dow Jones is a good example of large cap stocks, or the S&P 500, sort of, right? So you can see negative, we have performances, right? Negative 14, negative 26, positive 37, positive 23, negative 7, so on and so forth, right? And so these are the returns of the market during that time frame. If we add all these up and divide by 30, we get something called an average return. The average return per year was 12.2%. Now, I don't know what people know on this presentation, what a good rate of return is. But I promise you, if you earn 12% per year on average, it ain't bad. You know, people are happy these days with 7, 8, 6%. So getting 12 ain't so bad. Now, it's very simple to follow along here. I have year one, age 67. Now remember, it's a January 1st to December 31st kind of concept, right? January 1st, I have $1 million. I have my positive negative return. Obviously, this was negative. I lost $146,000 in dollar amounts. So the EOI end of year is $853,300, which would be December 31st of that year. Year number two, the numbers are the same, right? So we're just switching from December 31st to January 1st of the next year. And then I have my positive negative return. And here I am at the end of year, right? And I follow all the way along, all the way down to the bottom. How much money do we see in the account at the end of 30 years? The answer is $20.8 million. My account grew to $20 million. I don't care who you are, doesn't sound too bad to me. Sounds like an excellent situation. Yes, excellent situation. Now, the problem with the analysis and the problem with all this is that we assume that we never spent a dollar, right? And this is a retirement plan conversation. Question? Good?
Yeah, so I think you just anticipated it. So this is just over time without any withdrawals.
Correct.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay. I'm glad everybody's on top of me. I love it. I love it. You're keeping me honest. Okay. So you can see here, this is how this ends up over time. It's a retirement conversation. So let's desire an income, as you can see here. So I'm going to desire a certain amount of money every year for the rest of my life. Okay. So how much money should we take out per year? Okay. So I'm going to go off subject a little bit and say, why don't we just live off the interest? Okay, so live off the interest. We've heard this. Oh, if I get a lot of money, I'll just live off the interest. All right, win the lottery, I'll live off the interest. What is the definition of living off the interest? Simply means that if I have $1 million, now I earn some amount of interest or some type of gain, I just spend the gain, I'm left with my $1 million. Okay.
Okay,
Easy
so
enough.
I can see the problem there because it's not till year 4 that you get any interest.
Well, you're getting there, right? So because we get to cheat, right? And say, oh, I already know the interest. It's 12.2%. So I'm going to spend 12.2. So 12% times $1 million is $120,000. So I put in 120,000 into my screen. And what happens right here, 754, blah, 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 and I go broke and in 7 years, right? So I don't go negative, I go broke, I run out, right? It's just the computer doesn't understand that. So that's it. Once it turns red, we're out of money. Okay, so wrong answer. So let's just lower it. All right, let's go to 110. Maybe there's some fees in there or something I'm missing. I'm broke in year 8. Well, that's not good. What about 100? Nope, can't make it. Let's keep going. This is the fun stuff. Can I spend 90? No. Can I spend 80? No, I run out of money in year 18. But as you can see, as I keep lowering the amount of money, I keep getting further and further along in the years. Okay, I am not going to keep going to find out the number that it's because it's just, again, we get to the point of what's the least amount of money I can spend in my retirement. That is not what you guys are here for. We're going to spend the most amount of money in retirement. Okay, so here we go. Why is this happening? The reason why this is happening is a phenomenon in retirement planning called sequence of returns risk. The conversation about how much money do I take out in my retirement, and do I get any positive or negative returns, and where they end up in my retirement. Do I get a lot of negative returns at the beginning, middle, or end of my retirement? Do I get a lot of positive returns at the beginning, middle, or end of my retirement? The danger or the risk, right, of the sequence is if I get a lot of negative returns in the beginning of my retirement, I run the risk of running out of money quicker than I would have had they come at a different time. That is sequence of returns risk. Okay, back to my thing here. So what we want to do is come up with a way to avoid or defend, is a better word I like to use, having negative returns at the beginning of my retirement. See, the problem is I can't just say to you, if in the first year of your retirement, don't spend any money. Doesn't work like that, okay? But you're going to still need to spend some money. But this is really interesting. Okay, so obviously you can see in the first 2 years we had negative returns, and then in year number 5 I had another negative return, and then right here as well, right? Now the other thing is I don't know any. See, the thing, this is not about predicting anything either, right? See, I don't know how anybody on this call's retirement is going to work out in the future. So I can't deal with predictions. I can only deal with what's going on at this moment in time. All right. So what we have to do is create a defense. We call it a sequence defense. So I'm going to hit this little button here on the top right-hand corner. I turn it on. Okay. So now we get this thing here. It says non-market sources. So a defense, by definition, is money that is sitting somewhere else, not in the stock market or a retirement account, that is available for use during retirement. So I'm going to click this little I button here. And as I click this button, it says, what is a non-market source? Total assets or income sources that are not already used for retirement income, which are not directly affected by stock market fluctuations, may be used. Examples include precious metals. That's like gold and silver. Business assets. So if I have money tied up inside of my business, can I do something to get the money out of it? Many of you have heard of something called permanent life insurance. There's some examples of that, the cash values of them. We have something called a reverse mortgage in our world now. Very interesting product for retirement. Investment real estate. If I own other real estate, that's great. I could have money just sitting in a checking or savings account, and I can borrow money from friends or family. These are all viable sources. Okay. This is the strategy. In a year that I am faced with a negative return in the market, I am not going to take money out of that account, and I'm only going to spend the defensive source. All right. So remember, we're not making predictions. January 1st of this year, we get to December 31st of next year. I discover I had a bad market. That means the next year coming up, January 1st, I'm not going to use this investment account. I'm going to use my defensive source. That's by definition how it works. So I'm going to put, let's assume that I had $80,000 stashed away in any one or combination of those defensive source examples, right? I could have $10,000 in gold, $50,000 in this, or $80,000 in whatever. It could just be sitting in my bank account. By hitting this plus button, what you're going to see down at the bottom is I hit the plus button. I am not going to take money out of my investment account. I'm going to take it from the defensive source. And look what happens to my retirement. All it took was 1 year of a break. You gave the account 1 year's break. So year one, I have my loss. I discover I have my loss. Year two, that means, not taken from the account. I'm going to use my defensive source. The 586, Marche, means that I pass away with $586,000 still left in my account. Got it? Okay. So let's look at something else for a second. So we just saved our retirement. We got to spend $2.3 million over that time frame. This, by the way, this is no 4% rule. This is 8%. Right? But I'm using a different tool or strategy to get me there. All right. So I want you to see this. So this is the same visual. Well, it's the same data. I'm using a visual to say the same thing, right? See, if I remove my defensive source, this is me running out of money, right? And this is the break-even point. This is where I lose money in year 18, as we saw before, right? And if I add my defensive source, this is my thing in blue here. Okay, check this out. What if I was really smart and instead of having only $80,000, I had $160,000 in a different defensive source? Okay, so that means if my desired income was $80,000, 2 years I could take out money from my, right? If there's 2 down years, I could take it out twice. All right. When I hit this plus button, I'm going to insert that extra year in. What's going on now? It looks like my stock portfolio is growing over time. I'm going to bring back the numbers now. So look, now it's 2 years in a row I use my defensive source. What happened to my portfolio? I still spent the $80,000, right? But now I have $3.2 million left over in the bank for my loved ones and the people that I care about and charities that I want to give my money away to. Okay. So looks like we have go ahead, question?
Oh, no, I was going to say that's a pretty powerful demonstration we did have one question. Obviously, people are retired, but a lot of people do retire while still maybe working part-time or picking up a job that might, so it may not necessarily have to be, savings. Maybe it's just income from work.
Yeah, absolutely. These are all great strategies. And Social Security is not being factored into this at all. Okay, so I'm leaving that out for now. So Social Security is just a dollar amount that you receive every month for the rest of your life, and it'll be factored into the desired income. Now, by the way, this tool does have that feature, right? Government income is Social Security, right? If I have a pension, that is part of the program, right? We can add that in. If I have an annuity, right? Annuity is the same thing, guaranteed income for the rest of my life. We put these in for a personalized approach to looking at the numbers, right? So of course there's a way to I'm just being very general and giving little, the big picture conversation. Okay, now I'm going to really ruin everyone's day now. So just because I like to. All right, so let's really think about this. We're still in the mindset of spending the least amount of money possible. So we discovered that $80,000 least amount of money I could spend possible. And then I end up with 3.2 million. And probably all the moms on the call are so happy because they get to give their kids, their grandkids, this beautiful gift at the end of their life, right? And I always make a joke with everybody and I'm going, this is a terrible outcome. And everyone's like, what do you mean? I'm like, this is horrific. This is not what you want for your life. How much money did you leave on the table? You left $3.2 million on the table. That's terrible. So, and everyone looks at me like, this guy crazy? This is a perfect situation. No, you failed. I think you failed at retirement. How much should you have spent? And so the amount of money that should be in here at the end of the life is, drum roll please, 0. You should have spent $91,000 a year. And now all the, the moms and grandparents and are like, this guy's out of his mind. He's crazy. No, this is what should happen. Now, hold on a second. Did we disinherit our children or grandchildren or charities? Not necessarily, right? What is still left? All the other asset classes, right? It's not necessarily that we spent all of the stuff, right? I could have a gold and silver account. I could still have a business that I'm passing on to my children, or the business has something inside of it. The life insurance, when I die with life insurance, what happens? The kids get money, right? Charities get money. If I have a piece of property, there's still the property that's left over. And so I'm not wiping out the inheritance. I'm just speaking in strategic terms. And as this could get super complicated, but you see my point, right? Now we could just stick with the original outcome of the $3.2 million and $80,000 if you so desire, but there's a way to, in my opinion, there's a way to have your cake and eat it too. Okay, so there's that. Trying to see if I left anything out. We can go back to the slide again.
Yeah, before you do that, I just have a request here. Can we look at, something a little more current? So can we look at the past 30 years from, let's see, yeah.
Here's the problem. We can, but the outcomes, sometimes the outcomes are way better. And so you could have spent a lot of money, right? And so I'm identifying, look, I could have picked any year, right? I could have go forward in history and we get these totally different outcomes, right? So the point is, there was a moment in time where I can identify that there were a group of people that got kind of beat up. It's the people who retired in 1973, if this sort of happened for them. And so we can play around all day long with other years, right? And we could see, well, what would happen in this year if I retire? What happened in that year if I retire? Remember, the takeaway is what? I want to protect people in the beginning negative years. Now, check this out. This is important. Are my 2022 people who are planning on retiring dealing with a negative year? Yes. Yes. So these people have to start thinking about how much money you're going to spend. So it's like 1973 is a great example, but like it's happening right now. It's happening right now. So do you want to read the question?
Yeah, we just got a question. How does RMD affect this? If you are required to take out during the down years, can't this tank you? That's a great question.
Yes. So the answer is you're correct. RMDs, for people that do not know, is required minimum distribution. In our retirement plans, our 401ks, traditional 401ks, you are required to take out money no matter what. Okay, so if I have $1 million in my 401k, I'm required to take out a certain amount of money. Now, the amount of money that you're required to take out is a complicated table provided by the IRS that we have to tell you every year what you're supposed to take out. Okay, you could take out as much as you want, but you have to take out a minimum. And the reason why you have to take it out is, guess why? The government wants their tax dollars. So if you have all your money in a retirement account, then all of your money is going to be required to be drawn. And you don't have the luxury of this kind of strategy, right? So before you show up to a retirement, that's why planning is so important. That's why we call this financial planning. You have to plan out what happens. So you're stuck taking that money out of that account no matter what. Now, but here's what happens, right? So you take the money out of the account in that year. You have a choice of what you do with those dollars, right? You can now spend them, or you could turn around and put it right where? Right back into the market, right? And so that's something you're allowed to do. Now, unfortunately, it's not dollar for dollar, right? Because you're going to have to pay taxes on the amount of money you take out. So that is why it is advisable to think about the future of your money, right? The concept is don't put all your eggs in one basket on anything in life. And there's a reason for that. Not that there's anything wrong with the 401k, but that's how they operate. And so we have to think about, okay, when I get there, if all my money's in the 401k, I don't get to play this game. You have to take the money out and you have to sell positions, whether they're up or down. Right. So that's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So planning for that. Can you talk a little bit about rollovers and maybe, if they have a 401k Roth, to talk a little bit about what we do to defend against that?
Well, one of the first things you want to do is before your retirement, you start funneling money into different tools, right? You have the right to do with what you want with your dollars. Nobody's forcing you to put all your money into a 401k. That's your decision. Okay, so the first thing to do is think about, all right, I don't have to stick it in a 401k. If I want to still invest the dollars, I can do it outside of the 401k world. I can do it inside of a taxable investment account or an individual or joint account with my spouse. That works. There's other investment strategies, right? We just talked about them. The non-market sources. I can put my money into gold and silver or a business or my insurance, or I could put it into real estate. These are all viable sources to put money for my retirement. No one said that you're forced to put all your money into the 401k. That's a decision on your part. And you want to discuss that with your CPA, your financial advisor, right? And any attorneys that you bring into the conversation as well, because they help. See, remember, financial planning is not a single person endeavor. You need other individuals to help you with these kinds of conversations. There's not just one person.
All right.
Well, the question?
Yeah, good question here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I think we've already gone over this, but I just wanted to get back on track here and go to where we can answer some more questions. This is a review of the sequence defense items there. And if it's okay, I have a couple more questions here I can ask, and then we can finish up. Obviously, we can't look into the future. So if you're having a down year, you don't know if the next year is going to be a down year.
Correct.
So I think you already answered that you do the sequence defense after the year where it's been a down year.
Yeah. Okay. So it's easy to think of like January to December conversation, right? January 1st is the year I retire. It's the day I retire. And then we go to December 31st and I'm like, I've lost money. You just let it unfold how it works, right? You take the money out as you need to spend. But now that we've confirmed that we had a negative year, then what we will do is on December 31st, acknowledge the negative year and then make a decision. It would sound something like this. Okay, so what we're going to do this year is let's not spend the least amount of money possible from the investment account. Remember the RMD thing is a thing, right? You're going to have to take something out of that account. What you do with those dollars, again, I think that you just put some of those dollars back into the market is a great strategy, and then use and supplement some other account. I'm actually having somebody that I'm going to have to probably have that conversation with this year about their portfolio and where they spend money.
Another follow-up question to that is that, can you start doing sequence defense as soon as you can tell it will likely be a down market kind of year? I mean, a lot of people might want to do that earlier.
They could. Being cautious, yeah, but markets that, again, I never try to play the prediction game. It's not a game that I like to be a part of. I can only deal with the information that I have, right? And go from there.
All right. Any other closing thoughts that you want to give before we end out our webinar today?
Yeah, I mean, I really truly believe in the concept of multiple asset classes. Uh, if I know what your future is, I will know where to stuff all your dollars. It's pretty easy. But because we don't know the future, and that's the other thing, everybody's circumstance is different, right? Some people want to pass their money to charity, and that's important to them. Some people want to pass it all to their kids. Some people, some people want their portfolio to grow in retirement. Other people want to spend as much money. Financial planning is a customized thing. There's no Googling financial planning is not the approach, right? You want to really think about what you want for yourself. And that's the concept of identifying goals, right? You have to identify a goal, figure out the best strategies to get you there, and then deal with real life as it comes to you, because real life happens, right? One of the concepts we say is, money and math are not the same thing, right? It's easy to do a math problem, but life shows up and then all of a sudden the math doesn't work anymore, right? So you have to really, to me, it's like never put all your money in one basket.
All right, and then we had one final question that we can cover. The tool that you used, is that available to the general public, or is that something only a financial advisor would use?
So the tool I'm using is through this program. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to get it. You got to pay for it, right? So it's not free. So you can get it if you want. Just go to the company. You could see the web address. But financial advisors use this particular program just to convey concepts. That's really what it's about. But I pay a lot of money for it, so you wouldn't want to pay the amount that I pay. But that doesn't mean there's not a million of these calculators all over the internet. I mean, for free, there's tons of them, right? So yeah, I mean, most financial professionals. So but for me, if I have somebody as a client, they get a login to this program. They get to use some of the tools and features, among other. I don't just use this one program at all. I mean, I use a ton of different programs to convey different concepts for people. So, but they get those as part of the financial planning package. And most financial professionals are providing these tools to their clients at some level or not. So, I wouldn't spend too much money on programs if I was a consumer. I would rely on the advisor. But if you're a do-it-yourselfer, maybe a small financial planning package, I bet, is out there and a lot of them you get through, if you're going to invest with, even your 401k plans have free retirement planning tools and calculators inside of them that you can utilize that, can convey certain concepts and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, thank you so much. What an interesting conversation. I think very informative, and we love seeing those demonstrations, because really that's the guts of what financial planning is all about. It's not just, it's not as simple. It's very much more customized. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here. If we haven't had a chance to get to your question again, just leave your contact information in the chat and we'll make sure someone reaches out to you after today's event. We want to thank our speaker and the organizations that have worked with us to bring you this webinar today. For our attendees, look for an email for a link to the replay of this event. You're welcome to share that with friends and family. Here at Advice Chaser, we're all about helping you find a financial advisor who's a great fit for your life and your financial questions. Our matching service is free to you, and every one of our advisor partners has committed to offer a free initial consultation to anyone we introduce them to. Find out more by going to advicechaser.com and clicking on the link to find an advisor. Once again, from Advice Chaser, thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you at another webinar soon. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.